Are people like AOC, do you think she gets, and I already kind of see it happening, where she gets folded into kind of the mainstream of American political culture and then just kind of becomes everybody's favorite girl boss?
She, it's funny, when she was running against Joe Crowley in that primary in 2018, when no one knew who she was, one of my colleagues at The Intercept, Ryan Grimm, who like has his finger on the pulse of like the left wing of Democratic politics, the left wing flank. I remember he like emailed me. He said, "Hey, there's this candidate. I think you're really going to love her. And she could really use your voice, like supporting her." And I went and looked, and I was like, she was saying all this like radical stuff. And it was during the war with Israel and Gaza, like one of the 10,000 wars, but it was an outbreak of violence at the time. And the Israelis were shooting Gazans at the border just over a fence, like just randomly shooting at them. And she went on Twitter running for Congress in New York and said, "It's time that my party, the Democratic Party, stop overlooking the human rights abuses of Israel." And I was like, all right, she sounds good.
Right.
So I interviewed her. And if you go and watch that interview that I did with her, it went viral at the time. Like that's when people started really knowing who she was. You won't recognize her. Like it's a completely unrecognizable person, the person that I interviewed and then championed from the person that she's become. And it reminds me, I was friends with all those MSNBC hosts. I used to be very good friends with Rachel Maddow, like when she was on Air America, and then even when she first got her MSNBC show, same with Chris Hayes. And in 2011, Chris Hayes wrote a book before he got his MSNBC show called Twilight of the Elites. And the main thesis of the book is that elite America has failed. It has no more valid claim to authority. And his argument was this concept he called cognitive capture, which is that elite institutions have become so perfectly constructed that anyone who enters them and immerses themselves in them inevitably, not likely or usually, but inevitably will become co-opted by them. No matter how well-intentioned you are when you enter them, no matter how resistant you think you are to their pieties, the reward system that they have, it's like a perfectly constructed psychological fuck of your brain that no human being can resist. It's just been perfected over so long. And I remember I asked Chris in that interview that I did with him, well, you're about to go have an MSNBC show. What are you doing to prepare yourself to inoculate yourself against this? And he's like, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. And you can see the effects of the fact that he was telling the truth. So you put AOC in Washington and you tell her, hey, you want to be on this committee that'll give you like a lot of like social media viral moments where you get to like snap at some like banking executive or whatever. Right. We'll put you on that committee as long as you shut the fuck up about the attacks you're doing on Nancy Pelosi and our donors. And as long as I'll tell you, this is actually what has changed my view. My husband is a congressman here in Brazil. He ran for city council of Rio de Janeiro in 2016 and won, and then ran for the federal Congress 2018. Now he's a congressman. So I see it from the inside. What happens? Like he was raised in this, like really poor slum in Rio de Janeiro. So his family lived there, his friends lived there.
Like a favela?
Yeah, favela. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Very good. Much
better. There's people that aren't worldly, but I am, and every now and then I want to let people know. Do you ever, by the way, I'm going to let you continue, but have you ever encountered the Brazilian wandering spider there, Phoenitrius ferra?
Yes, we lived in this like kind of, like forest area of Rio on the top of a mountain, and frequently those things are fucking terrifying and would enter our house, and I would have to call somebody who was not my husband or myself to go kill them.
Interesting. All right, continue with the Congress.
So anyway, he grew up in a favela. He actually, he entered politics because he actually cares. It's cute. Right. He takes it seriously. He doesn't think of it as a career. He really wants to help people's lives improve or whatever. So he'll have like a bill that will allocate I don't know, say $1 million to build some community center in the favela. So these kids who are 8 and 10 have things to do and don't get recruited into drug gangs, actual things that will help people.
Right.
And then he'll go to the scumbag leaders of the Congress who control what gets on the floor. And he'll be like, can you help me get this bill on the floor, and they'll say to him, yeah, we'll let your bill come up for a vote, and we'll even make sure it passes, but we need you to make sure that you and your faction vote for this corrupt giveaway to our funders and lobbyists. We'll do a deal. You vote for this. And then you're suddenly in the position of do I stand on principle?
Right.
And just say, go fuck yourself, and then get nothing for the people who sent me there to help improve their lives, and I get to feel good about myself but do nothing? Or do I make that compromise? And then the more you make that compromise, the more you get sucked into that system. And before you know it, you no longer can distinguish between what's really the compromise and what's not.
What's the way around it? It just seems like human nature is kind of inherently flawed, and that no matter what system you set up, you're going to have something like this. I mean, you could get public money out of politics. I mean, good luck. That seems like a good idea. But I mean, then you'll just have, the Epstein and the Ghislaine. You'll have there'll always be kind of ways. There'll always be things people want that they can't have that are provided to them. There's some illicit, and they'll always be controlled. When you look at the Epstein situation, how many elected officials are blackmailed, bribed, owned, controlled, with sex, with drugs, with things that they did, cheating on taxes, businesses they had years ago. How big of a scope do you think that is?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, right? That's one of the things that never got investigated because of his unfortunate and tragic suicide in prison.
Yes.
And, I think, human nature, if you just look at history, human nature is a really ugly thing.
Right.
And so it's almost impossible to construct a politics or human institutions that aren't plagued by these kinds of pathologies. On the other hand, we do as humans also have this kind of capacity for compassion and empathy because we're political and social animals. We do have a kind of better side that can be appealed to. So I don't know. I've kind of come to the conclusion that what humans really do need is leadership, strong, charismatic people who they follow, who are going to be imperfect, who are going to do dirty deals because that's just the nature of how you wield power, but who just on balance are going to make things somewhat better. And I think that's the most of what you can ask for and hope for.